for someone as at the hierarchy that he is, just fix it.
And I think that's the difference, is I know and believe that he will fix it. It just has not happened yet in the timing and in the manner in which we would like to see.
Cute, but dumb. Cute, but stupid.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of For the One podcast. I'm really excited today because we are going to continue in a part 2 our conversation that we had with Joe discussing an atheist versus Christian worldview. It was really interesting having Joe on the podcast, providing just his perspectives and experiences growing up in different religions and how he ultimately came to the decision that he was going to follow an atheist worldview. So please go and watch part 1 if you did not catch that yet, and then come back here and watch part 2. But without further ado, here is the second part of our conversation with Joe. I think like one of the questions I have for someone sitting in that perspective is, and I think that this is where it gets really difficult, like even not specifically on the topic of sexual attraction, but like what, and you're not going to offend me with your answer, but genuinely, like, as a Christian, so I'm sitting here like, okay, I have a worldview of there is an afterlife.
Yeah.
And the afterlife that I believe in is you either go to heaven or you go to hell. Mm-hmm. And the premise that I believe, based on this scripture in this text, is that I don't want to see anybody go to hell.
Right.
I believe that if you don't believe in Jesus, that's where, according to my religion, you're going to hell.
Right.
So now we have this tension point, mm-hmm. especially culturally, of what I think so many people on a certain side of things is looking at me and people like me as you're judgmental, you're not accepting, you're not tolerant, you hate us.
Right.
That's the emotion that's being taken from us being like, this is not.
You just want what's best.
Right. I'm actually saying these things because I love you and I don't want to see you go to hell. And That's very blunt, but that's like, now I can't speak for everybody because there's, the
some
radical
people want some people to go to hell.
Well, yeah. and they are hateful and they're, all that, like, yes, there's bad examples on all sides of things, but I would say genuinely for the most part, most Christians, especially those that I know, it's like, no, like, hey, like, you're gay. I don't hate you because you're gay. If it were up to me, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but it's not up to me. It's up to him. And I go by what he says and this says, and I just want to see you in heaven. Right. So I guess from someone saying in your viewpoint, it's like, can we do any, what can we do better without changing
the religion,
my belief system and what I would say I know, but I believe that God says.
Right. I think the hard part about it is, from my point of view and my belief in, I think that the scripture is inherently wrong. And so for me to try and say what can Christians do to, I don't want to say recruit, but what can they do to show people what they believe is the true way, right? Mm-hmm. I see the Bible as a book of fable, right? I think that there are cautionary tales. I think that there are ways to live your life. But I also know that it was written at least 40 years after Jesus was gone. And so it's hard for me to accept that as a possibility of truth, I guess, if that makes sense. Inherently, I know that doesn't make sense to you, but from a perspective.
Yeah.
And so I think that if Christians truly wanted to show people, what the New Testament says, and how how Christianity is, I guess you could say, how it was supposed to be lived. Just asking them if they've ever read the Bible. Because like I said, I've read the Bible, but again, it was 15 years ago. It was a long time ago. Just like the Quran was a long time ago, and the Torah as well. And so I think that if I were to read it today, which my friend has told me, like, have you read the Bible? And I was like, yes, I have. And she's like, well, have you read it from a perspective of like truly believing it? And I was like, it is impossible for me to do. And I she's like, well, then you're not going to get it. And I was like, shouldn't the text be so...
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with her on that.
Right.
Because there's people that haven't believed that have read it and changed their opinion.
And so I think that me inherently reading it and still seeing a book of cautionary tales and fable and historical document, I didn't automatically become like, oh, this is right. And I think a lot of people, one, don't read the Bible.
I would definitely agree with you on that.
And I think it is cherry-picked by both sides. I think it is used for evil as well as for good. I think that there is evil in the Bible, commanded by God. And so I think that it would be hard to... In general, I think it would be hard to convince someone who's a non-believer or someone who is questioning to view this as all good and all loving. And that's any religion.
Yeah.
There are atrocities in every single religion that are, in my view, poorly explained and poorly reasoned. But as someone who doesn't believe, I think that would be the only way, is to have someone read it and interpret it for themselves. Because you can choose all the good quotes to read to someone. Of course, that's going to make it sound amazing. But...
So I shouldn't pick, like, Jesus saying, you got to eat my flesh and drink my blood. I shouldn't choose that one out of the New Testament. That's not too attractive.
Some people might be, but I think that, I think there are very good things about religion that I think everyone should read or in general just believe. That doesn't mean I believe that they're a Christian if they just believe like not killing, not cheating and all that.
Yeah.
But I also think, like I said before, that there are horrible things in the Bible that I think you also need to believe. And I think that is where I have a hard time believing is why would an all-loving, all-powerful God do that? Because it doesn't make sense. And then to push back, people would say, like, well, it doesn't have to make sense because he's the perfect being, and we're trying to understand it from our human perspective. But I would think that if God is so perfect, if he is this perfect being that it cannot be touched, cannot be reasoned with, I guess, just something that whatever he says he is colloquial, but whatever they say is perfect, and whatever they say is the way, why is there hell? Why is there so much atrocity? Because if he is, then I mean, everything should be perfect. This should be a perfect world, and I know that comes down to Adam and Eve, and Eve took the apple, and that story in general I just see as misogyny. But I understand that
you know what? I won't fully disagree with you because of the way that it was taught for a really long time. If you actually look at that...
I know they made the decision together, and then Eve...
Oh, I wasn't even going to say that. The onus ultimately is on Adam.
Okay.
So, and to your point of this has been used for good, this has also been used for evil. There's a lot of people that have preached that story of how dare the woman, shame on the woman, curse the woman, which if you read it, God does not curse the woman or the man. The only person he curses or entity he curses is the serpent, is Satan. But if you actually look at that contextually, and how, again, we believe like marriage is structure and everything, Adam is the head at that point. And I know nobody likes this term submission, but we believe in that. Again, that's been misused and abused. But in its proper context, Adam is the head of this relationship that he is in with Eve. He was there when the serpent was talking to her, tempting her. He did not intervene. I actually just heard one podcast saying, I love how this guy said it. He said, Adam should have grabbed that serpent and choked it out as soon as it started talking to his wife. So to your point, I agree with you. The way it's been taught is very like Eve's at fault, misogynistic, but the actual onus, the responsibility, and the actual like fault of passivity is on Adam. Now, I'm not saying Eve doesn't have responsibility, but Adam is still very much at fault in this situation for not stepping in as he was called and given authority to in the situation. So I just wanted to...
No. And I think my pushback to that in my view, that's still misogynistic. And because why is then Eve not allowed to make a decision on her own?
Well, so here's my pushback. Adam and Eve were both allowed to make a decision on their own. That's called free will, and they did, because God does not want robots. This is why we believe, and our text tells us, and again, going back to evil, demonic forces, there's fallen angels, because no being that God created is robotically serving him. He wants willing people, like whether, again, people or beings, angelic, human, to want to be in relationship with him. And so that was Eden. That was the perfect world. That was God made them, man and woman, in his image to be in relationship with them. And so Eve did have a choice. And it was because she had choice that she chose. Now, here's the thing, to your point, even if Adam had stepped in and been like, what the heck are you doing talking to this goon of a serpent? Like, don't do this. She still has free will. She still has a choice. In all things fair and, good, it's Adam still couldn't like completely control her by any means. We're just saying he still had responsibility to step in and he didn't. Now, from what she did from there, that is on her. So she did have choice. Adam did have choice. And that choice got their butts kicked out of paradise.
I think that, as someone who doesn't believe in free will.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Why then is God even creating that situation?
Like Eden and man and woman and...
No, so here, I think this is one of the points that I lean on the most is that, if God is all powerful and all knowing, or omniscient and all loving, that with the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, it cannot happen. He is either one or the other. And I lean so much more towards if Christians would just say he is all loving but can't control everything, and not even control everything, but if he doesn't know what's going to happen, and he created us in his image and then just said, like, I truly hope that, what happens is good, then I think so many more people would be Christians and believe in God. But because there is this prerequisite for him to be all-loving and omniscient, it is, to me, wildly unbelievable. Because if he's all-loving, then why is he commanding genocide in the Old Testament? Why are there people with cancer who suffer daily? Because I work on a cancer unit and I see it. And why is there childhood cancer? Why are there murders? And I know that the pushback would be it's the devil influencing them. But then if he's all-knowing, why would he even have created the angel that would then fall to be the devil? Because he knows.
Well, that's the age-old question, is why would he create any of this knowing that it was going to end up being imperfect because of free will? But again, we believe a characteristic in the nature of God is that he is creative. So being the creator, he creates these beings, again, angel, human, all the above, and he does not. I say that this is in parallel to, again, who we believe Jesus to be and what he is representative of, in the fact of he knew full well that not every angel was going to choose to be in relationship with him and worship him. Okay. He knew full well that not every human was going to choose him. And the reason that we have the faith we have is in the next phrase I'm going to say. And yet, or but God still. He still, from the minute that Genesis 3 takes place, I mean, like in the exact second that this exchange happens, he finds Adam and Eve hiding in their shame, and he's like, what have you done? Like, what's going on? And this whole situation plays out. And I was going to ask you this question because your friend said, have you ever read the Bible from the perspective of like believing it to be true, basically? I'm paraphrasing her words.
Yeah.
I would ask, have you ever read the Bible as the redemption story to bring humans back into relationship with their creator?
I think that is it's hard for me to do because I don't believe it, right? And so I think that it's hard for me to conceptualize a world in which there is someone who is all-loving and omniscient who then chose to make everything not perfect. And so if someone is so perfect, and I think now we know, like, I think as humans, we know that these things are bad. Like, cancer is bad.
Oh, yeah.
Genocide is bad. Obviously, we know this. And so why is that even a possibility to happen? And I know you just said that, he doesn't want to make robots. He and you don't know why all these things are created. I think that a lot of Christians say, we don't know because it was a different time. With that's
an interesting answer.
Especially with the Old Testament, because there is so much that happens in the Old Testament that is just...
I love the Old Testament.
But the Old Testament is so much harder to ingest and believe to me. I would believe it if it was a historical document that said, like, yes, there was genocide that happened, and it happened, but now it's over. But for God to command the the genocide of the Amalekites, and then
You're just talking about when they come into the promised land to like clear out the promised land?
right.
Okay.
And so for God to command a genocide, I it is so viscerally difficult for me to say like, well, there had to have been a good reason, because there is no good reason for a genocide. And I know that there's a lot of debate that it even was a genocide, but then God commands the people who run from the city to be chased down and murdered, and then to be to kill the men, women, and children, and in livestock.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And how I guess for you, how could that ever in any situation be the righteous thing to do?
Well, I want to give maybe slight correction, and I'm not saying that you like are fully mistaken, but I don't believe that there's ever anywhere that says God is all loving. It says God is love, sure, but all loving, I don't believe in that God. I believe in a God who is love, who is mercy, who is kindness, who is grace. I also believe in a God who is justice and wrath and anger. And that's what, to your point, and a lot of people's points, is the struggle of the Old Testament, is, oh my gosh, this is like an angry God. Like, where's nice Jesus? Where's the Jesus that's like healing the blind and like giving money to the poor? Like, where's that God? And I get it, because it is just between the old and the new, it's such a radical picture difference. I would say this is, you're going to hate this answer. A lot of people are going to hate this answer. To a point, and this goes like to the story of Job, I am not all-knowing. Right. And so none of us are. And because of that, I cannot necessarily answer for every action or lack of action on God's part.
That's fair.
My answer specifically with the promised land and clearing out the land and all this stuff goes to the fact that, one, this group in the story of the Israelites is God's chosen people. These are the people that he is trying desperately to be in covenant relationship with, starting with Abraham all the way down to now here they are coming back into this land that God promised Abraham they would have. And the people in this land not only are not chosen to be in relationship with God, but I would say that from what I'm reading and have understood, they are kind of in exact opposite of being in relationship with God. They're worshiping false gods, false idols, Baal, Molech, like idol worship, this is the culture of what's going on. There's fornication outside of marriage. There may be homosexual relationships. Again, I understand touchy subject, but go with me on the ride. There's lying, there's cheating, there's all this stuff happening. And as we see, to your point, the story of the Israelites throughout the Old Testament is these people are still not getting it. They're still in their human nature. Like the Israelites are messing up, I'm saying. They're sinful. They're worshiping a golden calf at the foot of the mountain while Moses is up there trying to get the 10 Commandments. Like, they're on some buffoonery too. And I heard a pastor say this before, where someone was like, why is the Bible so long, right? Like, why is it so big? And the pastor's response was, thank God that it is. Because basically every story leading up to Jesus getting here in the New Testament is God, like, pursuing after these people. He's trying to bring them back into righteousness or into a relationship with himself. And time and again, even when the Israelites mess up, you see there's consequence. you see they get exiled to Babylon. That is a consequence of them being like not following him.
Okay.
That is a consequence of their disobedience. Sorry, that was the word I was trying to find. Their disobedience to God. So you could even say, well, if God's all loving, why is he sending the Israelite children into slavery in Egypt? Why is he sending them into exile into Babylon? That doesn't seem very loving. Discipline is loving. Correction is loving. And every single time when you read this through that lens, it is, hey, there's consequence for your action, but I'm always going to bring you back. And every single time he's like, hey, I'm going to restore you. I'm going to redeem you. I'm going to bring you back. And so why is he calling for the wipeout of all these nations? Because he in his wisdom that I can't understand as a human was like, these are my chosen people. I promised the very first patriarch, Abraham, that they would have this land. And I am God, and I'm going to show the nations, show the earth. It's the same reason why he killed the whole Egyptian army. You could say, well, that's not very kind of him. But you also could say they were completely oppressive in holding the Israelites in slavery and bondage. So is it evil, or is it righteous retribution and justice for what they had done and how they treated those people?
I think it would be righteous retribution if God then didn't explain how to own slaves later on. I think that the contradictions, the amount of contradictions in the Bible is expansive. And I think that, I guess it could be considered righteous retribution or righteous justice if then he didn't write, not God himself, but the people who wrote down God's word, how to own slaves, the parameters in which it was okay to own a slave, the rules and regulations of owning a slave. I think that what we have in the Bible is a way for humans to justify to themselves, and this is back then, so 2,000 some odd years ago, right? It's a way for them to justify to themselves what has happened to them and what they are allowed to do. Because again, I feel like a God that is love, is kindness. Why would if his people were enslaved for so long, and forced to go on an unbelievable journey through the desert to then get to their promised land, why would he then say, since you just left slavery, here's how you should have been treated as a slave, and then commands them to take slaves on? I think that is the opposite of kind. And it is much more explained, as it seems so much more like an indentured servitude, and rather than a slavery. But then, the people who came to America and had slaves from Africa used the Bible and actually took excerpts out of the Bible to then give to the slaves to show them why slavery was okay. Again, that is heinous, but I think that to say that it is righteous retribution for the Egyptian army to all be dead, how is death a consequence? I don't think death is a consequence. It's a finality. It's not a correction. It is it's just simply a wipeout of the. I don't see it as justice. I see it as a retribution. I see it as an erasure of issues. But then at that point, why why would that even be in the book that's supposed to teach about love and about accepting one another? And obviously the Old Testament is very different than the New, but like why would wrath and anger be something that a perfect being has to a point of pettiness? And my one friend said that, God is supposed to be an individual, not necessarily with flaws, but someone who has emotions and has these innate feelings to, but then that in general would not be a perfect being. A perfect being would be someone who creates a world in which there is no suffering. There's inherent suffering around the world, and inherent suffering of animals which have no idea of God. They don't know. They don't find their food and pray over it before they kill it, right? A lion doesn't pray right before it hunts a gazelle. It's brutal. It's murderous, but that's nature. And it's hard for me to accept the fact that there is righteous retribution and there is righteous justice and everything will even out because of the good that God brings and consequence. Why is a consequence death, slavery, exile? Why are those consequences that bring so much suffering that will inherently drive people away from him? Because if they say, well, why did God choose to put us into slavery? Why did God choose to exile us? It will automatically put into someone's head, well, then he just doesn't love us. And then they have to be taught that he does. I think it's a unbelievable justification that Christians have, as well as yourself, to say like, well, that just shows you to trust God and trust the process of what he has in store for you. And the only way is to go along with it. And it's, I think it's incredible. Not necessarily in a doubtful way or a bad way. I think it's amazing that a lot of religious individuals can tell themselves that and truly believe it. And that's something that I've just have never been able to believe. That death is a righteous retribution for not believing in not even someone, but like the thing, like like the one thing that you're supposed to believe in.
Yeah.
But I'm not dead, right? Like I know that my eventual consequence, if hell is real, will be hell, unless I accept Jesus Christ. But I'm doubtful that will happen. And so I'm not afraid that it'll be my eventual place of existence, because I just don't. It's so hard for me to believe that is a just consequence for even living my life as pure and good as I can, but just not by accepting the fact that I believe that Jesus was real, and I'm submitting.
Well, yeah, the real part, even the demons believe that. So Christians who say, oh yeah, Jesus or God is real, that does not mean...
it's the submittance and the accepting of the he is the Lord and Savior, and that he died on the cross for our sins. And
yeah,
I think that it's I'm not. It's not brainwashing. It's not a. I think it's a phenomenal cope that Christians have ingrained in themselves to justify the destruction within the world, the hatred in the world, in the past, in the future, and now. Is that it's God's plan. Whatever's happening is God's plan, and it's what was meant to happen.
Yeah. I mean, to go back to your original question of why is death the righteous retribution, this goes back to, and I know you already said you don't agree with this, this goes back to what we ascribe to, which is the wages of sin are death. It is death. And so it's not, this goes into the whole, there's like a whole thing of the doctrine of election, but the way that this author put it that I really liked was like, God doesn't send anybody to hell. Like, basically, he's like, God is responsible for salvation. People are responsible for them choosing not to believe in the gift of salvation. So God does not want to see anyone go to hell. God does not want what I would say we do attribute a lot of cancer, death, disease, war, murders on the earth to the kingdom of darkness, because once that entered, he currently is sitting in a dominion here on earth. And we believe that until Jesus comes back for a second time, he's fully defeated. Up until that point, he has his little grubby hands on a lot of what's going on. So we do attribute that. And it's interesting, the comment you made about like coping in that way of like, well, this is God's plan. I guess my thing is I'm like, one, I don't want you or anyone else thinking that just because I was raised in the church, like I've never had my questions, my doubts, I went through a period, actually like probably right before we met, where I was like, I think I'm good. Like I still believed in God. I was never like questioning like that he existed. But I'm like, if this is the whole religion, church situation, I'm like, I'm good, guys. And I really had a moment where I basically almost walked away from faith. I mean, in a sense. And I say this as someone who at that point had read the Bible cover to cover probably 3 to 5 times by the time I was 18. Reading it from 18 to 27, now in this almost decade of my life, I have never seen a more pristine, flawless, from cover to cover, Genesis to Revelation, explanation and story. And so I'm saying this to say, again, not to try to convince you or anybody else, I had my own, like, I don't know about this. And in the last decade of me, I don't know whether you want to call it maturing, just aging, having life experience, whatever. It's interesting because I read cover to cover and I'm like, this is the most compelling story that I've ever seen or heard of any religion as to why I believe this is true. And my point in saying that is, and Jesus even says, in this world, you will have many trials. You will have many troubles. You're going to suffer as I've suffered. I mean, even if we just say Jesus was a real person, he was crucified, that man suffered. Like, no questions asked, extremely so. And so my point in saying that is suffering is going to happen. In my opinion, evil is going to happen. Sickness is going to happen. Disease, famine, war, all these things are going to happen. I'm not going to lie. After, the Catholic school shooting that happened however long ago that was now, I sat here and I did a podcast saying, why didn't you stop it? I'm a Christian that's saying, what, God, you're loving. Where were you? So don't think that I don't have that sometimes. Now, my thing is I don't know where else I would go. I honestly am like, all of these things are going to happen. I can't control or stop, these mass events from happening. What else am I going to put my faith in other than what I believe is the story of a God who literally came down, derobed himself of glory, and came down into flesh and bone and died for me and for all these other people, knowing however many of them were not even ever going to believe in him or accept him. Where else am I going to go? What else am I going to believe in? And again, I think the whole afterlife thing, that gives me purpose. That gives me yes, enjoy my life while I'm here. But I do also believe this is my temporary home. I believe I will have an eternal heavenly body one day that is going to be way better than this, and be on a new heaven and new earth. That is what Eden was supposed to be. To your point of, if this loving God, why didn't he make everything perfect? My rebuttal is he did make everything perfect. But again, he didn't make robots, which I know you don't believe in the free will exercise, but he did make everything perfect.
Okay. So he made everything perfect, but then chose to make people, or two individuals who are imperfect, or in his image perfect, but with imperfect impulsivity. And free will, which is imperfect. And so I think that, again, I call it a contradiction. I understand that you call it a way for him to just not make drones. And so, I mean, that I understand where you're coming from. I do. I completely understand that, he did create this perfect world, and then humans are the ones that messed it up.
Well, Satan, and then human decision. Yes.
Right. So then I think that inherently puts the burden again on us, which I think is another
sticking point,
guilt tactic almost. We're the ones that screwed everything up, so now we have to prove ourselves. And kind of like you said, doesn't really have much to do with that, but with the purpose thing. In all actuality, I don't believe that humans have a purpose on this earth. There is no purpose for human existence. There's no purpose to anything. I think, I don't know if you do or not, but evolution made us who we are, and it's we're just here. We're another animal that evolved, and thankfully I have the consciousness to realize that, and I think that we're one of the very few animals on Earth that have a sense of consciousness that we know of, I guess. And that's incredible. And whether people believe that, some individuals were put on this earth so we were able to discover that. But I truly believe that, there's no, and it's something I struggle with, is the actuality of well, what is the point? And to me, there is no point. We're here and then we're gone. And that's unfortunately what happens. I think that objectively that's what happens. We're here for a short amount of time and we're gone. I don't know what happens after. And I think that is a point that a lot of Christians don't understand about atheists. Is just I'm not saying that there is absolutely no God, there is absolutely no devil, there is absolutely no heaven. I'm simply saying I don't know. I don't know. If there is, great. If there's not, nothing changes. I can't believe in something unless it's shown to be true. And God has the ability to show us. um, every single day that he's there or they're there.
I 100% agree with you.
And to me, they don't.
Hmm.
I know someone who believes they'll see minor things as like that's God's doing, or that's him showing us that he's there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, you know, I don't believe in miracles. I think that there are anomalies that happen.
Hmm.
But I it's hard for me to look at that and say, oh, that's God showing themselves to us, and that's the proof. When he's made mountains crumble, when he's shown us Jesus, they can do that again,
Mm-hmm.
and they choose not to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's again where, if he truly does want the best for all of us, and want to reunite with us in an afterlife, why not show again? Why not? I know it says in that until Jesus comes back, this is it. This is your last chance at belief. And then obviously it was written down, and on we go. But if he is someone with emotion, and he sees what's happening in the world and still chooses not to show themselves, how could that be justified? Rather than pride in saying, well, I told you, and then that's it. And it's hard for me to justify believing in someone who is so humanistic and human-like, when I see people who are human beings who, in my eyes, are so much more loving and kind and accepting and objectively more open-minded than God is. And I would much rather follow their teachings than one that commands atrocities like we spoke about before, or one who demands consequences for an action that they thought that was right.
Yeah.
Because correction is different than discipline, right?
Is it?
So correction is a guidance, a way to betterment.
Okay.
A discipline is a negative one. It has a negative connotation, because I don't think that there can be I don't want to say good discipline, because inherently people say like discipline is good because it shows you, but discipline in general has a matter of stopping what's being done instead of guiding someone to make the decision that is more correct, or a betterness. And so similar, right? I'm not saying that they're completely opposite ends of the spectrum. I think that using the term guidance is so much more useful. But discipline and retribution are the words that are used. When why does there have to be retribution? Why can't there be an inherent, I know that this is very optimistic, but an inherent coming together and acceptance of one another? But it just doesn't happen. So I think it's hard for me to accept a God that can't give us those things. Even if he has attempted to. There's an easy fix to being all powerful, and that's just by fixing everything, right? And I think that they choose not to, and they're choosing to let us suffer. To whether it be a discipline for us not following, but the suffering is a choice, and they're choosing to let us suffer. Not us, but in general as a human race. I mean, there's multiple genocides going on right now. The amount of greed alone in American politics is ridiculous. In America, I guess, in general. And it can be so easily fixed because he is all powerful. But he doesn't. And I think that is where I lose a lot of faith in how could they let that happen and then call themselves loving and kind and accepting. Because, and I know that a lot of people say, well, it's the humans that are doing that who aren't following God. But
sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah, right. And so I think that for someone as at the hierarchy that he is, just fix it.
And I think that's the difference, is I know and believe that he will fix it. It just has not happened yet in the timing and in the manner in which we would like to see. Going back to us believing in his second coming, that is when he fixes it. That is when he makes the wrong things right. That is when he flips the governments and nations and kingdoms of this world on their head. And that's, again, whether you want to call it cope or hope.
Yep.
That's what we hold on to as believers.
Do you think that hope is a justifiable reason to believe in the Bible?
Is hope a justifiable reason?
So the hope that this might happen.
Okay.
Or I'm sure because you truly believe that it will.
Yeah.
The hope that this will happen. Is that the justification for the belief in Christianity?
I want to say no, and here's why. Because that hope does not come, again, we could get into a chicken and the egg thing, but I don't think that hope comes until you have accepted what I said a little bit ago, that God came down in human flesh and sacrificed himself for me, for you, everyone. And until that belief is had, that then leads to the hope of the second time he comes back. It's not going to be as a lamb, it's going to be as a lion. So I don't think the hope is the justification for the Christian faith. I think the belief that I have a savior and this is who my savior is and this is what he did is the justification and the pillar of the Christian belief. Because this is what makes us different than the Jews. We have very similar, a lot of things. Yeah. But they don't believe Jesus was the Messiah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that obviously that's where Islam differs as well, as there was Muhammad and they believe that he was the last. So I think the difference with Islam as well, to kind of go off on a tangent, is that the Quran mentions Jesus and accepts him as a Messiah,
As a Messiah or as a prophet?
prophet. And so
Big difference.
Um, and so I think that's also why in Islam that paintings and pictures are not to have Muhammad's face on them.
Mhm.
Because in my eyes, I see it as that his level of righteousness is attainable.
Muhammad's.
Mhm.
Okay.
And the face that you put to it, and I know that it's more of the line of no one can become who he is, and any image that is drawn of him or painted is never going to be as perfect as Muhammad was. But I see it as you can attain that.
What does
Obviously.
attaining that do, though?
What does attaining the righteousness of Jesus do?
It saves me from eternal death.
Okay.
But
So-
is that what they believe of Muhammad? That's what I'm asking.
So there's an entirely separate book that basically is the way that Muhammad lived his life.
Okay.
And a lot of Muslims read that book, and that is how they live their life, as close to Muhammad as they can.
Okay. So Muhammad's kind of their Jesus figure, just for
It's the
me
prophet,
to
yeah.
parallel. Okay.
And so, but that's why a lot of Muslims will also. I mean, that's why they grow a beard. That's why, you know, the women wear a hijab or a burqa, is because in the book it says that it's to be modest. It's not to be restrictive or anything like that. It's why nuns cover their hair. It's why traditionalist like Christians who they wear head garbs as well. I mean, it's
Yeah.
obviously with modern times it's been misconstrued as restrictive and everything, but and Denmark actually just passed a law where burqas are no longer allowed in public. So
Interesting.
you know,
Do they have a large Muslim population there right now?
I don't necessarily know if it's a large population, but it's enough to where people didn't enjoy it, I guess, and now it's not allowed. You're not allowed to wear a burqa out in public, so which is ridiculous, right? It's a piece of clothing. It's not offensive. It's not. If anything, it's the least offensive thing you can do, covering everything but your eyes, right? And so
Maybe America should move towards that.
But
Kidding.
I think that, you know, the similarities, the unbelievable similarities between the Abrahamic religions are so close, and yet they, and I'm not saying you do, but they hate each other for no reason. Which is kind of why I say that, you know, religion, I know this, people say money is the root of all evil, but religion is so hard to not justify as the root of all evil. And obviously I 100% know.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you're going to obviously disagree with that. And I completely understand, you're Christian. Every war can be tied to religion. Or at least the covering up of the real reason, right? I mean, like, so obviously, like, the Iraq War was not about terrorism; it was about land, oil, and money, right? But, I know people are going to disagree with that, but that, I mean, it's factually.
I would say that that's pretty.
And so, but it was under the guise of we have to stop
Terrorism.
these terrorists, and they're Middle Eastern and they're Muslim, and this is what they believe in. And so almost every war or not even war, genocide, killings are, you can have, not can have them, you can bring them back to religion. Whether that be the hatred of a religion or someone believing that their religion is commanding them to do it. Or even, because you can even go to like Jonestown, where they drank the Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah.
He thought that he was a god, and so that in itself is a religion.
Yeah.
And so, do I think that there's good that comes from religion? Absolutely, right? I think that the general consensus of love thy neighbor and treat people how you want to be treated, obviously is good. Right? I don't think anyone would defend against that. But you also have to take the killing, the murder, the torture, the suffering that has been induced by religion. And whether that be the incorrect interpretation of religion or someone believing that they're being told to do this from a religion, the root is religion. And so, and I know that, the false interpretation of religion, I mean, a lot of people will say like, well, that's not the religion, that's the human interpretation of it, but they wouldn't have that interpretation if there was no religion, right? And so I think that, and I know that, you're going to say the overall good vastly outweighs the evil.
Of Christianity specifically, yes, I
Yeah.
would say that.
And I think that there's no religion that has shown itself to me, or that I've been able to find, that rightfully justifies what's happening or has happened. Because obviously a text written 2,000 years ago has no idea what's happening now, right? It's impossible to predict the future. And you can...
I don't know, I'd be reading the Old Testament and be like, we're just like these people. Ain't nothing changed.
So, fair. History can repeat itself, but it's not a prediction, right? Or I shouldn't say a prediction. It's not a telling of the future. History will repeat itself. Because people don't learn. And so there's nothing that has been able to show that it is still relevant, or something that has no contradictions, and no imperfections that are explainable. Because, I mean, there's hundreds of contradictions in the Bible, if not thousands. There's the same amount in the Torah, the Quran. The only ones that don't really have it are the tribalistic religions, where they have created everything in a way that there is no contradictions.
I would say contradictions or paradoxes.
I would say contradictions. I'm sure you would say paradoxes. One of the best ones I love is brought up by Alex O'Connor, who's he went to school for theology, and he says, why must animals suffer if there is no comprehension of God, no comprehension of good and evil, but then they're promised a place in heaven? Like, all animals are promised a place in heaven because they are innocent. They're inherently innocent. So why is it even that they have a possibility of suffering?
All of that's very interesting because there's Christians that would not agree with that last part about them going to heaven. There's a lot of Christians that think animals don't go to heaven. I personally do, but
Everyone wants their dog in heaven, right? I think that.
yeah. But I think even wild animal, like I
Right.
think wild animals as well.
And
But that's interesting because not every Christian even believes that.
which is crazy to me because what have they done, right? Like, what have they done? And I know
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times people will say like, well, animals were put on this earth for like work, food,
Mm.
and everything. And that's kind of, I mean, I don't believe in that, but they're inherently innocent. Like they don't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The deer that ends up like charging at a human being, the deer didn't do anything wrong. It was
Yeah.
defending itself, right?
Right.
The lion that kills the antelope is trying to eat. It's
Mhm.
trying to survive.
Yeah.
There's no animal that isn't inherently evil.
Mm-hmm.
There's no evil animals. So then why are they indentured to suffer?
Because, again, this goes back to this earth is in decay. Since the introduction of sin, and again, I'm just going off the premise of if the wages of sin are death, since the entrance of sin into this world,
Mm-hmm.
all of creation, the stars, the moon, the mountains, the animals, everything is in a constant state of death and decay. And again, that will not be remedied until the full kingdom of God is established with the new heaven and new earth. Just like we're suffering currently.
I mean,
Because we're in a... I'm saying we as a worldwide peoples
Gotcha.
are in different states of suffering. I'm not saying we're suffering like those in the Middle East in the middle of war. It's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
But we all have our own variation and version depending on where you are in the world of death, decay,
Right.
and suffering. That's my answer.
Right. And I think my only pushback to that would be, and I know you said that because of because of our choice to not follow God, and
Mm-hmm.
is why that there is now suffering and hurt in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But for beings that have never even conceptualized the idea of a God, why are they suffering? Because I would completely get on board with, we're suffering because as a human race, we're going away from God.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going in the opposite direction of that they want us to. And so I don't believe it, but I could understand that
Mhm.
justification.
Yeah.
But
I told you it was going to happen.
An old animal who can't walk anymore
Mhm.
and then gets eaten alive. That to me is unjustifiable.
Mm.
They feel pain, they feel
Mhm.
hurt, fear, and God is just letting that happen. He could take away the pain. He could make it that animals don't feel pain.
Mhm.
He could make it that there's a society, or not a society, I forgot what they were called in school, like not the circle of life, but like the hierarchy of prey and
Oh, the ecosystem.
right, an ecosystem that is completely harmonious. And know that you're gonna say that's what he created in Eden, and there was no
There was no
death.
shedding of blood,
Right.
correct?
But why? Because if animals were in Eden, respectfully, they probably just didn't eat, because if there's no death in the aspect of like murder or anything like that, a lion is.
You want my answer? I believe that they were all vegetarian at that time.
But what about the living plants, trees? I know they don't feel pain, but why are they chosen as the ones to die instead of the animal?
Are
And
they?
you might not have an answer. Like,
Well, I
you
was
might,
gonna say, are they dying though? Because a lot of the times, like even think of like ecosystems that we know of today. You know, something sucks the pollen out of the flower, eats this part of the thing, and then they end up actually carrying the seed and repopulating.
fair. That's totally fair. But eating the foliage is taking away a form of life source for something. Even like grass, right? When we cut grass, we're shortening the amount of tallness that it is, which then halves or whatever the amount of I almost said chloroform, but the chlorophyll that are in there to allow it to grow again. And obviously it does, because we have lawns and everything like that. But half the time you see that the lawn just dies, right? And so I'm not necessarily putting plants and animals and humans on the same level of existence, because I don't believe that they're equal in life, right?
I would agree.
But there is a damnation to plants to just be able to die without a consequence, I guess. And I don't think that they have a conscious being, although there's a lot of studies being done, and there's a forest where it's basically just one tree because all the roots are connected and they're all from one.
Oh, I've heard about that.
And there are sharing of nutrients from one tree to the complete other, and almost like electrical impulses. But I don't think they feel pain. They compartmentalize, which has been proven, but I still don't think that that's a justification for them to be the ones that die. And again, obviously this is a tangent, and like, but I don't think that they feel suffering. And I guess that could be the reasoning as to why they're the ones that are being eaten and dying, and not an animal. But it comes back to the why are animals even having the ability to suffer? Why is that even a possibility? So, I know you gave your answer already. It's just it's more of a thought,
Yeah.
more than a point to be rebutted, because you did that already.
Yeah.
But
Well, I also just thought too, I actually have a better answer because I just thought of it. So let me just rebuttal with this real quick. Is life is considered to be, and this is scriptural, within the blood. Like whether that's of an animal, a human, the blood is the life. Plants don't have blood. So arguably,
blood as we have it, that carry oxygen and everything, fair. But they do have veins, and why they call them veins.
yeah, I'm not saying they don't have their own network to get nutrients and roots
Fair.
Yes, but I'm saying blood as we know it. If you cut me, if you cut a dog, like we're gonna bleed.
Right.
It's blood. So, yeah, I guess
That's
that would
fair.
be. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting premise though. And then I go back to all the animals that died in the flood and that were not on the boat. And I go back to all the animals that were sacrificed throughout the Old Testament for atonement and offerings. And that's a whole thing.
Do you believe in like the creationist theory?
You're going to have to like tell me what that is
Gotcha.
because I don't
So,
know terms.
Creationists believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old,
Okay.
and so they
Is that
believe
based on like biblical Okay.
So they take what the Bible says and then
Date back.
basically.
Okay.
But it's much more of a, I don't want to say interpretation, but it's how they're, I guess you could say interpreting the Bible in a fact of where they're trying to use science to interpret like how all things. But it also means that dinosaurs were less than 6,000 years ago, and the flood was less than 6,000 years ago, and which I mean, possibly.
Yeah.
The only reason I asked that is because of the Creationist Museum in Kentucky.
I have wanted to go there. I've heard about it.
Well, there's dioramas with dinosaurs and people coexisting, so that's something to look forward to.
Very interesting. I would love to know how that would have gone, and I'm glad I wasn't here if that was the case.
But there's, because Bill Nye and Ken Ham, they've done many debates together. And Bill Nye ended up going to the Creationist Museum that Ken Ham funded and got funding for. And one of the biggest things that Bill Nye says in that is just that there's zero archaeological proof that there was a flood.
Interesting.
Which
I've heard the exact opposite.
So I think when people talk about the flood, I always want to ask, do you think that it was a worldwide flood, or do you believe that it was a regional flood? Because I think a regional flood could be possibly true. All the animals, that's where you lose me. But like,
I definitely believe it was worldwide.
And so there's zero archaeological evidence that that's actually possibly true. In different regions, you might find that there was a flood, but then the floods never really coincide with one another from another part of the world, right? And so if it was a regional flood, I think the story would be exponentially more believable. And because if there's a regional flood, it can even take up an entire country. I mean, we see what happens with tsunamis and everything like that. The issue is that with the flood, it most likely happened in the Middle East, which that's in general hard to believe, right? And so, but then again, you have to realize that the continents weren't exactly where they are right now as they were.
Well, I guess it depends on what time frame you believe also.
But humans in general are less than right around 500,000 years old. If you, I guess if you believe in evolution, and with like fossil records and everything like that. And creationists also believe that fossils were placed here. Right. So,
okay, I don't know if I'm on board with that. I do not believe in evolution, but I don't know if fossils were placed.
And there's places we can dig in glaciers and ice that taken samples from that are from 1 million years ago. And so it's kind of the same thing as like last Thursdayism, where you have zero proof to actually show that the earth was not created last Thursday. Right? Everything could have been placed here. You just don't know. And we've, you could say, like, well, 2 weeks ago I was at, it's like, well, those memories were put into your brain. And so it's not really an actual theory. It's more of a thought experiment.
Yeah.
And so I attribute creationism to that, just because like it's archaeologically, scientifically, it's impossible that the earth is only 6,000 years old. We have rocks older than that. We have pieces of glacier that are older than that. We have fossils that are millions of years old. And again, they say they're placed there.
Yeah. My rebuttal, and I'm not saying I disagree, they could be millions of years old.
Right.
I don't have like a stick in the sand on this either way. My like devil's advocate responses, but that's based on how we're dating them, is we're saying they're millions of years old, which there's tension in the community of even how we're dating rocks and fossils and
Right, because you can't date. So carbon dating with rocks is hard because rocks are not made of carbon. Materials in them are. And so, I mean, there's also ways that they can not carbon date, but date rocks in general. And but when we're carbon dating, a lot of the times you'll only hear that it's like 1.2 million years old, but in reality, it's a range. The range could be a couple 100,000 years, but when you're talking about millions, I mean, it's not
it's
a
like
huge
penny.
window,
Yeah.
right? And so when we have carbon dating, yes, there's contention about whether or not it's truly accurate, but it's the best that we have, and it's been improving with the same pieces of material. And so they might have been able to go from like a $500,000 window, 500,000 year window to a 100,000 year window. And we're able to get the same results over and over and over again and prove that it's that. And one of my favorite quotes about religion in general and the contention between science and religion is when Ricky Gervais was on Stephen Colbert. And he said, if you were to take away all science books, every single science book in the universe, you will get the same results no matter what. Gravity will still exist, and you will get that result. The speed of light will still be exactly the same. You will get the same scientific results as you would no matter what. Obviously, when it comes to like the level of oxygen in the air or the level of nitrogen in the air, with pollution and everything, that's going to change. But you will continually get the same exact results if you try them again and rediscover them. If you took away all religious books, every single one of them, and no one had any memory of them, same thing with the science books, the religions would come back different. Because there are thousands upon thousands of religions in the world. Everyone will create their own religion into the aspect of what fits their region, their life, and how they are choosing to live that. Obviously, I know it's Ricky Gervais, and he's not a theologian or anything like that, but he is a prominent atheist who he's the atheist that people go to when they're talking about atheism, right? Because he's so famous. But he makes that such a good point of science is repeatable, religion isn't. That's why there are so many religions, because you know, if Christianity was the true one religion that made sense, everyone would have already been following it. Even the people who are on the other side of the world where it was not introduced. There would be people following it, but the way that they're, I mean, some people don't even know about Christianity. I mean, there's tribes in the Amazon who have no idea about it. There's no,
correct.
And so, if it was the only true religion that made sense and was the one that was all encompassing, I guess. Everyone would have found it.
It's interesting you say that. There's Romans chapter 1 talks about this, that says, you know, because there's kind of like this. Sorry. Romans chapter 1 talks about this, where there's like this argument that Paul lays out of like, well, how are people supposed to know, like, type of thing. Like Paul, I love Paul's writings because he knows what people are going to ask, and then he like answers the question. But basically this premise of creation tells of God. So like, and I understand too, someone like you or someone that's like, I don't ascribe to this, I don't believe in this. I understand that like it wouldn't be seen this way, but I guess to me, believing what I believe, it's like all of creation, whether you've like inherently heard the specific gospel of Jesus or not, is pointing to a deity, a divine creator, this God, Yahweh, Jehovah, right? Like, so it's interesting to hear that, because then like I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, obviously, and I'm like, no, but there is this evidence. Again, it's interesting to me, like the Buddhists and the Hindus and even the Quran with Muhammad. Again, not that I know like a ton about their entire book and religion, but I'm just like, it's a man. It's a mere mortal. Even the cults, when you bring up like Jonestown, like you're following a mere man. And I understand that there's people that would say, well, Jesus was just a man. Then that goes to, well, he resurrected from the dead. So someone has to explain that to me. If we're going to say all things are fair, that happened, well, that's not just a man. But my point in saying that is like, this is where I go. I don't think I would ever be able to be convinced of anything else to be true, because I'm like, my God is the only God who is alive. My God is the only God who is active. And my God is the only God who actually took himself, again, I say, down to my humanistic form and sacrificed himself for me and rose 3 days later. I don't know any other religion that has a story like that.
So there are many religions with resurrection stories that predate Christianity. And I think that is... I encourage you to look them up. I think.
Can you give a couple like names or?
So there's a lot of tribal religions have a resurrection story, not necessarily being a prophet, but there are stories continually with resurrections and basically the living dead, right? I mean, they have died and now they're alive again. The pushback I have to that being a reason of like, well, this is the one to follow then, because if he died and now he's back again, like this is wild. The only, like that event should be massively documented across many different texts. And the only text we have is the Bible or different religious texts. And especially the Romans. I mean, they should have been writing that down in the aspect of...
But if you read the Bible, the Jews and the Romans, both, it literally at the end of Matthew talks about the Jewish people were like, spread the word that his disciples stole his body. And it says, to this day, this is why the Jewish people do not believe in the resurrection of Jesus. And then the Romans, if you look at the text, the two soldiers especially, were paid off for their silence. And they were also afraid for their lives because they were supposed to be guarding this tomb. And now there's no body in this tomb. Well, someone's about to get their head taken off. Yeah. So there was a payment that happened between the Jewish religious leaders of the time with the Roman government and also the guards. The Jewish religious leaders were literally like, we will take care of it. Just say, spread the rumor that his disciples came and stole the body.
Which, fair. I'm not doubt. Like, I'll grant you that happened, right? People don't follow the rules, right? So like,
no.
So,
but also then every single disciple of his, except for John, got brutally murdered for testifying that he was raised from the dead. If this was a lie, why would anybody go to the death to proclaim that to the brutal murder extent that they endured?
I think my reasoning would be that bluntly, it just didn't happen, right? I think that...
what didn't happen, the resurrection or the murders?
I mean, I guess you could say both. I think that there's no there's no other text besides the Bible that even slightly mentions it.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on that, because there's definitely outside text that even describes, even though John was not murdered, he was severely tortured and thrown in a vat of oil. That's not in the Bible. That comes from a different historical document.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just John. There's also text. We don't have text in the Bible like that just necessarily is like, and Peter was crucified upside down. It's like, we know that because there was other records of Peter being crucified upside down.
Do we know that it was because of that, or was it just because they were followers of Jesus? So I think that there's justification to show that because it was a different time. I mean, this was obviously way before, but I mean, like in Salem, like a smart, intelligent woman would be murdered because they thought she was a witch, right?
Right.
So there are unjustifiable things that happen to people that just don't make sense. And if you were to tell someone to like stop following this man, right? Whether he was resurrected from the dead or not, stop following this man or you'll die.
Mm-hmm.
And they still follow them, then they're going to die, right? And so because it was a different time, because they didn't have the same obvious like laws and justice systems as we have now, I concede the fact that, they probably did die. His followers probably died because they were following him. And I can't justify their death. Like, I can't say they should have died. But when you subscribe to that one person, and the government basically says, like, if you believe him, we're gonna kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, like, well, I mean, I've followed him for the past how many years? Like, I mean, I believe him. Then of course they're going to die.
Yeah. What's interesting, though, is it wasn't really the Roman government. The Roman government could have ultimately at that point given two craps if these people were following Jesus. This was the Jewish religious leaders at the time that were...
Which is why there's a lot of contempt between Christianity and Judaism, which, sure. I mean, again, in my mind, it's silly. But
yeah, I have no issue with them. I mean, I want them to know Jesus and accept him, obviously, being where I'm standing in my belief. But I don't have an issue with them in their own regard. But it was at the time more the religious leaders. And so just, I guess, to your point of if it was like, they're like, hey, you got to stop preaching Jesus and following him. Keep in mind, at this point, he's, as we believe, ascended to the right hand of the Father in heaven. He's no longer on earth at this point. So if it was just a mere fact of everything up until this point between the Jews and now the so-called new religion, the Christians that are forming, is the exact same, minus the tension point of Jesus and him resurrecting, if that was all false, I still go back to, why would you die for it? If it was the Jewish people at the time, the religious leaders saying, you have to stop following Jesus, well, he's not even here. Like, I'm saying, to their point, if they were right and he's dead, you would just stop following and go back to the Torah and go back to the teachings of what you'd been raised in. Because the disciples were mostly Jewish. Like, they were raised in this.
Right. And I think it comes back to, if you truly believe that that's true, then, yeah, you're going to die for it, right? I'm not saying that they didn't believe it was true. I'm just saying they most likely thought it was true, and that's why they died. I know Jordan Peterson really likes to bring up the fact that like if something you believe to be true is something you're willing to die for, um, which it can go either way for me. But Alex O'Connor was discussing this, and he said, if you told me to, if I believe that this couch exists,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to die. And so I say like, no, this doesn't exist. I would completely. But if I were to stake my life on it, then yes, I'm going to believe it exists.
Hmm.
And so he brings up a thing about like if you're standing on a cliff and there's a chair behind you, and they're told like if you know if you believe that the chair is there, you'll die.
Mm.
And you can just say like the chair's not there, but you lean back and sit in the chair and fall off the cliff. You believe the chair's there and hoping the chair is there.
Mm.
And I think that that's where we come into the aspect of, I'm sure it was a mixture of belief and hope that what Jesus was saying was truly factual, and that, you know, this will lead them to salvation, and why they were willing to die for it. I can't speak for them. I don't know. I don't know them. You can read their text, but you don't know them. You know what I mean? There was also a lot less going on in the world. They knew very insular things. It was their village, their tribe, their city that they knew about, and maybe they might know about the next one over. But it's not going to be I know what's happening in Gaza, right? It's not going to be that. It's going to be, I know what's happening in North Homestead or Lakewood, right? The level of information was so diminished back then. And so anything that was going against what the mass was thinking is a threat. And I think that even you can subscribe to that. Like even my viewpoints or a lot of the viewpoints that go against the Christian teachings are a threat. And so I understand back then why they would have died, because it was a very different time. It was either basically like life or death when it came to consequences.
Right.
And so if they truly believed it, then of course they're going to stake their life on it, you know?
Hey guys, we'll be right back to the episode in just a moment, but first I want to tell you about an offer that I have for something called Primal Queen. It is a company made by a woman for women, and if you are a girly like me with something like PCOS, where you have imbalanced hormones, weird things with your cycle, low energy, unstable moods, Primal Queen has been shown to help so many women with all of those symptoms. Primal Queen is a supplement that is packed with vitamins and nutrients from beef organs. If you're like me, you're not going to be cooking up and serving liver on a random Tuesday for dinner. So if you want all of the benefits of eating organ meat, but you don't want to actually eat it, Primal Queen is the answer for you. So if you click the link in my description, you will get 25% off your first order of a starter kit of Primal Queen. It's a 30-day supply, and within the first couple weeks, you should be starting to notice things like improvement in your mood and improvement in your energy levels, and even starting to notice changes in your hormone balances. So if you would like to try this for yourself, again, that is 25% off if you use the link in my description for Primal Queen today. Now back to the episode. Yes, I did want to ask you.
Yeah.
Also, too, because I don't even think I knew, like, from a background perspective, that you, like, did consider yourself bisexual. So how did you, like, land on not only, like, your wife, but, like, to get married?
Yeah, I think that I found someone that accepted me for me. Whether that would have been obviously my wife now, but or a male or any other female. I think I found someone that truly accepts who I am, and who I want to be. We have very similar goals in life. We think a lot alike in social topics, um, and so I think it's someone that I want to be around for the rest of my life. And I know that doesn't necessarily mean you have to get married, right? And people are in long-term domestic relationships who never get married.
Right.
However, there are tax benefits. A lot of the times it's a lot easier to apply for things. I think that, my wife was never in a rush to get married. I don't think I was in a rush to get married. I just think I wanted to be married. I wanted to have a wife. But there was never, there were zero religious undertones to our wedding, right? We didn't have it in a church. We had it in a golf club. And we said our vows, but I mean, obviously there was no mention of God. It was a mention of our love towards one another. And I think that marriage in general doesn't have to be this something with a religious undertone. Because I know people, like some of my really good friends who got married, who I've never known to be religious, have religious undertones in their wedding. And
I always find that interesting.
It's odd.
Yeah. Sometimes I know it's like a family thing. Like sometimes there's like external family pressure, like, oh, it has to be a Catholic wedding, or I know that happens, but yeah, I find that odd too. And
I know that even like when we have a child, we're not going to baptize it, obviously. But I know that, my mother-in-law wants us to baptize the baby, and we're just not going to. It's just not who we are. It's not who or what we subscribe to. But I think that marriage isn't about the religious union of people. I think it's finding someone who accepts you for you, whether that be the religion that you both share or the disbelief in religion. I mean, it takes obviously more than that, right? Than just a religion to love one another and accept one another. And I think it's not easy, but you find someone that you wake up knowing that the times that are uneasy or difficult are the times that you look back on and saying like, well, I'm glad it was with you and not someone else. Like when I first started dating my girlfriend now, or my wife now.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I knew what you meant.
When I first started dating my wife now, it was within the first weeks of us meeting, I had a lunch with my ex because my ex and I ended up breaking up over text because she was in Florida doing like an internship. And I remember going to dinner or breakfast and then coming back, and I was like crying because obviously like I hadn't had the opportunity to actually like grieve or actually like really break up with her, even though we weren't dating anymore. And I was crying like in front of my now wife. I know a lot of people would not have dealt with that. So, crying over an ex, but she accepted that obviously I loved this person. I think you can love multiple people. And I subscribe to the fact that you can love multiple people at the same time.
Interesting.
I think that love is something that you can't control. Um, I don't. Obviously, there's different variations of love, and I think that there are. And that's why a lot of people have trouble with monogamy, is because they don't know how to control that, which is a whole other topic and world. But I think that it's unfair to expect someone to only love one person. And obviously there's, like I said, there's different variations of love. And I think that, I love my wife, but it's not to say that I haven't had like, a crush, right? I think it's so natural, for human beings to want to connect with someone. And I know that my wife has had crushes before. And I think that the realization and acceptance of, I'm not going to go out and do anything I'm not supposed to. Is one that I feel is fairly universal. Obviously not with everyone, because we do have people who cheat and everything like that. But
yeah. But you guys are within covenant with each other. You would both say that you're monogamous with each other.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to ask because there's people that are married that don't do that. So I
so
gotta ask.
I think that if anything were to happen, like we both decided on something, it's fair. I wouldn't like say it's wrong. I think people find relationships that work, and I don't think that people who are in open relationships or poly relationships are inherently bad. I think that they just obviously realize that love is not something that is always controllable. And so I love my wife, obviously. I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, obviously we've gone through rough times, as any relationship does. I think that our rough times are minute, considering what I've heard other people go through and everything. But I think that, emotionally, I wouldn't ever want to continually come home to the same person, to any other person, I should say.
Yeah.
And I know that she feels the same. And so I think that marriage doesn't have to be about like reproduction or anything like that as well. I think there are people who are asexual who just don't want to have sex and just do not feel the need for it. And I'm sure there are Christians who are asexual, right? I mean, there's people who just have this innate, just non-desire for it. And they can still get married, right? I think that once you find someone that is compatible with you and the way that you want to live life and the way that you want to live life together and build a future, is what marriage is about. And I obviously want children. I want kids. I think that ever since I was a kid and a teenager, I wanted to be a dad, right? And I think that's something that I've always wanted to be, was a good dad. And my wife, until she met me, said she really didn't see a future with children. But once she met me, she said, like, okay, like he would be a good dad.
That's a lot of us women, Christian and not, by the way, just so we're all clear. Yeah.
And so you know, I'm thankful because that's why my ex and I broke up, is because she just didn't want children, which is fair. And I don't think everyone should have children. I think that
Amen to that.
and I don't think everyone should feel pressured to have children. There are definitely people out there who have more than enough children for
Yes.
themselves.
And there's some people that really want them and can't have them. Yeah.
Right. And I think that, you know, it's marriage is so multidimensional that I think that even if you take the religious aspect out of marriage, there are still incredible, fulfilling, meaningful marriages out there.
I'm extremely happy you're married, by the way. Don't misunderstand the question. I love when people are married. Like, please.
And I think that, and this was probably a little bit more out there. Like, I don't ever see myself getting divorced, but I think that...
Love that too.
Yeah. When people do get divorced, I mean, it makes sense. I wouldn't force anyone to stay in a marriage that they're not happy in, or they know is not going to work out. They know that that's a contention among most religions in general and societies, is like, you never get divorced.
There's a few reasons that we believe in what we would call biblical grounds for divorce.
And like, there's so many more, I think, reasons nowadays to get divorced. Like I said earlier, because of the wealth of information we have. I mean, it's
the access to people that you have.
Right.
Websites and...
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that that's always a thought of, well, how do you know that this is the one? How do you know that this is the right one?
I think I'm worried if someone's not asking that question.
Right. I mean, it's completely human to want to ask that question, or you have a crush on someone and you're just like, well, what if my life could be better with them and not...
Right. Grass greener on the other side.
Right. And in some instances, it is. In some instances, it's not. And I think in the society we live in, you know, it's shunned to find that answer out. I shouldn't say shunned. It's frowned upon to find that answer out. And I think that it shouldn't necessarily be frowned upon. More so in the aspect of, I mean, I have friends that are females, right? I have friends that I'll hang out with that, I mean, I'm a nurse, so a lot of my friends are females. And so I have extremely close relationships with my female friends. One of them was my best woman in my wedding. And I love her, and I would never want anything bad to happen to her. And if she needed me, I would be there. But I would never expect, like, I guess, not expect my wife to get jealous, right? Because I think jealousy is also a human response. I mean, it's a natural human response. And I think that if there was a crush that happened and my wife got jealous, like, I would completely understand, right? I think that is very valid. Just like if she had a crush on someone, I think jealousy is warranted, right? I think that a lot of people don't openly communicate that, though. I've told my wife I've had crushes on people. She's told me she's had a crush on someone. We openly talk about, obviously celebrity crushes are not the same thing, but like, we're very open. And I think that is, not that it diminishes the jealousy, but you also realize like, oh, you're a human. You're a human being. You have urges. You have desires, and whether you act on them or not is kind of the determining factor. But there's no harm in having a crush on someone. Within a marriage, I understand why people get defensive and extremely like, well, then just go have a life with them then. It's like, no, like I just met them. That's the like that's what a crush is. It's the unknowing of what this person can give to you, right? You're filling in the holes of what might be missing somewhere with another aspect, right? No relationship is perfect, and I think that every relationship has its gaps that are the seams get filled in somewhere, but there's always that wondering of whether or not someone else can fulfill that maybe another can't. But that being said, I think that marriage is about love and not about the religious union, I guess, from my aspect. I think there's obviously like I said, the tax benefits and everything,
Right.
but we've created a society where marriage is encouraged rather than something to find on your own. A lot of time it's pushed on people. I mean, there's arranged marriages, and
Yeah, I don't love those.
a lot of people like to bring up that they have the lowest divorce rate of all marriages, but it comes with pressure of
I'll bite my tongue on that.
lack of, if you get divorced, there is a
Huge
large consequence.
Yes. Yes.
And so, yes, they have low divorce rates, and I'm sure that the people end up loving each other, but probably not in the same way that if you find someone that you align with. Right. Yeah. A lot of times arranged marriages are extremely misogynistic, and a lot of marriages in general, I think, are extremely misogynistic. I think, but that's why you have to find someone that aligns with your views,
Right. Right. Yeah, I was genuinely curious about it because to me, and to I think even people that maybe don't ascribe to Christianity, marriage is a godly construct in the way that it is in our scriptures. What we believe is that marriage here on earth is the type and shadow of Christ's relationship with the church, which is why Jesus says there is no marriage in the resurrection, in like the second coming. There is no marriage because we are now living in the fulfillment of the picture of Christ, who we compare to the groom, fulfilling his covenant with his bride, the church. So we take it, which is, that's why it's very interesting to hear you say, like, taking the religion part out of it, because like I'm saying here, like, there's no separation of the two to me. And to, I would say, most Christians, there is no separation because we're living a parallel here on earth of what we believe that ultimate picture is. And this is why, there's text of husbands love your wives, and even like to the point of dying for her as Christ did, right? Comparing the man to Christ, the woman usually. So again, people don't like the submission word, but that just means like the church. So like me as a Christian, my relationship with God, this is going to this relationship determines my relationship with my future husband. This vertical relationship affects all of my horizontal relationships. That's how we live and kind of how we ascribe to that.
Yeah. I think my only question would be about, like, what about the, like, it might not have been called marriage just because of the words, but like the unions between the unions before Christianity was a thing or Judaism was a thing, right? I mean, marriage in general is kind of why I say marriage in general is a misogynistic entity, is because most of the time it was for the dowry. It was for the land, for the money, the livestock.
And then for reproduction, to your point, like at that time, yeah.
And then the women were just kind of like, you can have her if I get this.
Right.
Yeah. And so like genuinely that's where like marriage comes from, but I understand the not retelling, but the I don't even know, the not rejustification either, but like making sure that wasn't the reason for marriage. And the new reason for marriage was for God.
Yeah.
And so,
well, and again, we believe, again, ascribing to this, we believe the first incident of marriage was with the first two humans on earth, Adam and Eve, in the garden before sin came, which is why we believe marriage is between one man, one woman, and this is the parallel picture of Jesus in the church. So all of that, even from the garden, day one, with the first two humans, we believe that was a foreshadow, parallel picture to what was coming, which was Jesus coming to fulfill his covenant with the bride.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I understand if with the if you believe that those were the two, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I think because I believe in evolution and because I believe that there was no like Garden of Eden and just the two people in general, that makes sense. But I think because I believe in evolution, like there were unions before we had like the term marriage or the term union, right? Yeah. You stick together for survival, and two is greater than one. And obviously now marriage is just so different because we have a society, and we live in the society that we do. Right. Marriage is not really for survival anymore. It's much more about the emotionality of it and the feelings and the want to spend time with someone else. Because I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't marry someone just because they believe in God.
No.
Right.
No. Nope.
And so there has to be a deeper foundation than that.
Yes.
Which I would consider love. And so at the foundation of marriage is no longer the religion. It's the love. If you don't love someone but they believe in God, most likely that's not going to be a fruitful or just in general good marriage for anyone.
Yeah. I also believe that love is a choice. And that's where when you make this covenant commitment, you are choosing that person. So to your point of, well, how do I know the grass isn't greener on the other side? You have made a choice to commit yourself to this person.
So,
I'm not saying that you don't feel attracted to them in the courting, dating stage. I'm saying by the time you make the decision to get married, you are saying, I am choosing to love this person. Because there's days Aaron's driving me up a wall. Like, right? Like, there's days I'm sure you're like, oh my gosh, if she leaves one more dish in the sink, or like whatever it is, right? You're like, but you're like, I have chosen, to your point of there's no one else I'd rather come home to.
Right.
You're like, I've made a choice that like, you are the one I am choosing. Till death do us part, basically, in your marriage vow, or however you guys said it, but some variation.
Right. I think the choice of love, I think, is a thing, but I don't think that love is a choice. I think, I think you can choose to love something, but I don't think the inherent like emotion and feeling of love is a choice. Kind of like my thing with there's no free will and arranged marriages. Eventually, I do believe that those people will love each other. Whether or not it's the same love that, I have for my wife or you have with your boyfriend or anything, I think that there's a love with respect in it. And there's a love that you don't want to experience with anyone else. And I think that you don't necessarily choose that, because there's people who fall in love with their abuser. There's people who fall in love with people who are clearly not good for them. I don't think that they choose to love them. I think that they are I think that they are either conditioned or they are manipulated into it.
To that point, I was just going to say, I don't think that is the actual. I hear what you're saying, and they think I'm in love with this person. That to me is not the truest form. That is not like an actual form of love. It's like a counterfeit. It's like a counterfeit version of love. It's not the love that you have with your wife. It's not the love that I have with Aaron. It's a counterfeit version of that.
And I think that's why I say that love is on I shouldn't say on a spectrum, because but there's the love I have for the average human being that I don't want them to suffer. I don't think anyone should suffer. I think that we should all be able to have a life and be able to live. But then there's the love I have for my wife that I don't really want to feel with anyone else. And love is also an evolving thing. I don't feel the same way I do as when we first started dating, of that, like, those crazy butterflies when we were just meeting each other.
Right.
But I also didn't feel the same way about the way I do now with her as I did when I was there. Like when I was first starting to date her, I probably, wouldn't like just be in the same house as her if she's sick, right? I mean, that's just something that you do, and that's why I think that love is a construct of evolution, and it is something that is inherently on a spectrum.
I think all I'm saying by it's a choice is, to your point that you just made, is it's not a feeling, because feelings can be fleeting. So the feeling that you had when you initially met her and you being like, I don't feel that way about her today. I think this is how, not every divorce, but a lot of divorces happen, is because they're like, well, this isn't like when we started dating 20 years ago. And like the feeling associated with what we define as love is now different or dwindled or changed. And so what I'm saying is, like, when you enter into a marriage, that love is not just a feeling, it is a choice of commitment to that person.
I think the word commitment is the
Better word.
The better word. Because I think love is so much more. Love is a word that we use to describe feeling and something that we can't.
It's
describe.
also very limited in our language. Like the Greek text in the Bible, there's 4 different words for love. Right. So we're also we say we love pizza, and it's like, it's very limiting.
There's affinities for, like, inanimate objects, your brother or sister, a random person. There's different. That's why I say there's different forms of love, right? It's something that is inside us that we can't fully describe, but it's a word that we associate with the feeling. So like commitment, I think, is a much better, like, yes, you're choosing the commitment, right? That is something that you can choose, and people break that commitment, which is why there's divorce and everything like that. Because there are people who are divorced who still love each other, but they know that this is just not sustainable, or it's not something that will work out. Or sometimes people stay together because they have children. It's like sometimes that's not the best reason to stay together if you truly don't like each other.
Right.
And so I think the word commitment, I can absolutely agree with. You're choosing that commitment because that's why, marriage that's also probably a derivation of religion, is why you're not allowed to marry more than one person, is because there is that commitment that you're ascribing to one person.
Monogamy is not natural, by the way.
Right.
It's not natural, which is what makes marriage almost so much more of, I know you don't believe in this word, but I would say a miracle, especially people who are able to stay married in a monogamous relationship, because it's not inherently natural to the flesh, I would say, to the sinful parts of our humanity. It's just not natural. So
right. And I think that is why it is, and a lot of people who are religious will say, like, well, then why are there animals who have monogamous relationships? And there's like, well, that's the anomaly. Like penguins are monogamous.
Yeah, it's not like the norm in the animal kingdom.
But even penguins and swans, like I kind of brought up earlier, they still have relationships outside of their marriage. And so whether it be like that companionship or purely sexual, like there are, like you said, it's an anomaly that we are the animal that decided that we're going to be monogamous for the rest of our lives.
And again, I believe that's because we were created in the image of God. The animals were not created in the image of God. So I believe that that's where that comes from. But
which is fair.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know we're getting the SD card warning.
Yeah.
So I'm going to land the plane here.
Cool.
I want to say thank you so much for reaching out, for being down to come on.
Absolutely.
Thanks for, like, honestly too, you're more of like I don't even want to call you a fan because that's not the right word, but you're like more of a support on like my Instagram than like some of like people I would consider friends are. Like you're like liking my post. You're like, I'm like, dang, Joe. Like, so, and I know you probably don't agree with like half, if anything, of like what I'm saying.
Majority.
Yeah. But I appreciate that you wanted to sit down and have the conversation. I appreciate that you, again, like follow me and even like my stuff, and we can just have like the mutual respect.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Always willing to come back if you have another person that wants to grill me.
Yeah. I didn't grill you too hard.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did it. And I'm probably go watch some Alex O'Connor on my way home. But no, I think that, conversations like these are necessary, and it's not something that is ever going to go away. There's never going to be only Christians. There's never going to be only atheists, right? And so conversations need to happen, whether at the end we agree or not. I'm sure a lot of things we just have to agree to disagree, but
I think we found more common ground than not, though, today, honestly.
I think the starting point was very different, but I think that the end points are common.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And we'll hopefully have you on again at some point in the future.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for watching another episode of For the One Podcast. And I hope to see you back on next week's episode.
Cute, but dumb. Cute, but stupid.